India, and welcome the second day of Financial Security Conclave. And we released this template that we are talking about. Why? Because you can use it for the context of your organization. So what it talks about is largely when we talk about AI security, privacy and governance, a lot of discussion across globe are evolving, right? And a lot of work is also following with those discussion. And in the value chain of AI, if you really look at, and you have to intervene for the governance, intervene for the security, intervene for the privacy, then you need to understand where and how you can intervene, where exactly, or what exactly you can intervene, right? So to understand that, you need to understand the value chain of AI, right? So day to day, there are a lot of research getting published, and day to day, there are hundreds and thousands of scientists which are trying to solve that problem. And we know solving this problem is for creating something called as a planetary scale wisdom in terms of LLM. LLM is a planetary scale wisdom, basically, right? Was started somewhere early 2010s, and which got some to reality where we all started using it in December 2022. So the research plays very important role. There is still some teaching problem people are solving, and now people are talking about this. They are trying to go for something like a next powerful AI called AGI, for that matter. General intelligence, right? Artificial general intelligence, which will be probably replacing human intelligence in many contexts and many areas, basically, right? So the researcher's role is very important. Researcher's innovator's role is very important. The next one is based on this research, based on these breakthroughs, people are building the model site. So model developer becomes another important entity in the game, right? Then we have the infrastructure provider, like who was trying to build this entire compute infrastructure, the data centers for compute, and more importantly, we have seen how the NVIDIA and those kind of organizations become so big in recent past because of their ability to provide those compute power. And also there are a lot of other organizations which are trying to build the infrastructure for helping you to, one is train the LLM, and more importantly, use the LLM for various different inferences. So there is two things that people talk about. One is the training, and other is inferencing. And compute is required for training and inferencing, right? Then the next thing is there are application that you want to build, and there are a lot of tools and ecosystem that is coming to help you to build applications. On top of the LLM that you build applications, and there are tools and ecosystem which with the help of that you can build the application, right? And then we have the people software developer which are helping you to develop those application functionality, develop the software, develop the application, basically, right? And at the end, we have somebody who is adopting this model, model adopter for that matter, right? Who is an end user, a bank, or any other organization in BFSI. So they are the one who adopts the model, right? But I have to intervene for the governance. For intervention, so one is the model developer. We OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, so many of them which are developing model. So they are a key target of intervention, basically, right? And the second is the model adopter, who is adopting it to build their application, who are adopting for different use cases, basically. So from the governance, responsible AI perspective. So these are the two key targets, basically, right? Which are important from the governance perspective to make the AI ecosystem more responsible, accountable, aligned becomes very important. So understanding this value ecosystem and looking at where exactly you intervene is very important, right? But now we know we have some concerns about model and some concerns about how this AI have been used, and they have been discussed in the context of ethics, in the context of responsible AI. There is different language people are using it, basically, right? But in the context of why and how we should do for the intervention, right? So we know the way to make a particular entity accountable in terms of use of any systems or data, basically we use purpose as one of the important things. So those who define the purpose of collecting information, putting system together, we try to make them more responsible, right? We try to make them primary owner of this. But in recent past, what happens is with the purpose, means also started coming in. GDPR talks about, or Data Protection DPDP Act also talk about those who define the purpose and means of collecting information becomes a primary owner, becomes a fiduciary or data controller, right? So these are the two terms we have been using to determine or fix the accountability and responsibility, basically. But things which have changed in December 2022 is a new paradigm, basically. In this new paradigm, what happened is the wisdom. Until now, we have been building on your own AI, which is like a black, we nowadays started saying that AI is more black box AI. We have been building that, right? And this AI, you have been using your data, your people, your algorithm, and you have been trying to build that. But suddenly we are using this global wisdom available. Suddenly we have started using, all of us, and many organizations circuited their existing AI program to make use of these LLMs available at a planetary level, basically, right? And so this is a global wisdom that you are using for your use case. You are using it for your question. You are using it for your prompt, basically, which is giving answer to your question or response to your prompt, basically, right? So this is a new word. This is new term which got answered. So this determines, probably this could help us to determine the fixing the responsibility. But when you talk about the model, so what kind of concerns we have from the model? Anybody? What do we say when we have problem with model? What do you say about this hallucination, data security, any other biasness? It may aid some criminal, you may write something and it may aid criminal act. It may give us some unprofessional advice. It may generate a content which may not be legal in nature for that matter, right? So many of these concerns are there. What are those concerns? So those concerns are largely concerns associated with the value system that we are in. For example, in our value system, child pornography is not a legal thing, right? And if model start responding to the question who is asking such kind of a prompt, then probably it is generating the criminal content. It's not matching to the value system, basically. And unless this model, because this is a global wisdom available for your use case, unless these models are aligned to our value system, so use of this model for various use cases will become very critical. For example, you are using this model to develop a kind of a comic book for students, right? And if this model doesn't know generating something for comic book student, and some words are not really called as a legal word to be consumed by students, basically, then this model is not aligned to the human value system, to the context that we are using. That's why the governance intervention for model developer, alignment is the word they use. You need to get this model aligned to the value system we are in. And there are a lot of methods, process, techniques, language, use cases that are evolved recently, which helps you to check the model's alignment. They will score the model against the expected behavior of the society, basically. This is one of the very important different understanding about what do you mean responsible AI. Associated with the models is the alignment, is the line that the people use, is the concept that people use, right? Then the second is the somebody which is using this model for various different kind of use cases, implementing, getting use of this model for very different use cases. And there the adoption has to be responsible. Means if you are using a model which is not known to generate a content legal in nature, or which is not known for generating content which is not aligned in society, means you are not responsibly adopting that model. If you are using model for something which is in illegal way, something which is where you are exposing the personal data, then you are not responsibly adopting it. So intervention here is a responsible adoption. How can you make end user more responsible for the adoption, basically, right? The, but then these are the two ecosystem, right? And now what about this rest of the people, right? And that's where the concepts comes as a responsible development and deployment. Those players, ecosystem players, be it infrastructure, be it a tool in ecosystem, be it for that matter, application functional developer for that matter, they have to develop it responsibly. But many times end user may not be knowing what exactly the issues of AI is, right? So if you make developer or somebody which is developing tool more accountable to what they have been developing on top of the LLM, basically, the rest of the job can be done, basically. But they need to develop responsibly, and as infrastructure comes into play, the deployment also has to be responsible. The foundational understanding of how the governance of security, privacy works and should work in this entire value chain of AI ecosystem. So once you understand these foundations, the next thing is now there are a lot of things available for developers. People are making that model developer more responsible. They are getting more aligned. Their models are getting better and better at something like Anthropic, Cloud 4.0, scoring well. There are a lot of score benchmarks which has been devised for model developer, and that's why alignment process is increasingly becoming much, much better. For example, nowadays model doesn't hallucinate too much. Nowadays model doesn't, if you are right to ask a question, model, the rejection ratio for any criminal thing that you want to get out of the model is significantly improved. The model doesn't promote any such kind of a biasness or something which is creating public order, basically. So gradually the models are improving a lot. So there are a lot of material, lot of science, lot of techniques, lot of ways which has evolved in recent past to make models more aligned to the societal requirement. And then developer ecosystem, infrastructure players have been becoming more responsible. But the question is the adopters. Those who are using this model, you and me and big banks or big companies to small companies using this model, basically. And not much of the discussion, much of the guidance available for those user organization, user entities, basically. And that's the attempt. So whatever we publish is largely meant for this end user organization, basically, right? So let's try to understand what that means, right? So end user like us, end user like any of the bank or any of the BFSI company or a startup or digital first company, so they would use model for various different use cases and various different ways. But before we go for that, any question or doubt on this formulation? You agree with this? Yeah, means I think there is a EU AI Act which has laid down some principles like this, but largely it's on models and less on the adopters. But yes, there are some elements of adopters as well in that. EU AI Act is a template case for this, basically. Yeah.
Could be different in different parts of the world. So something which is acceptable in West may not be acceptable maybe in Asia or Middle East.
Yeah.
So how do we adopt the various LLMs based on the region?
One really great question, right? So if you want to, this is a global planetary wisdom, and you want to make sure that it aligns to our value. And the same model used in other geography, same model used in Western geography, Asian geography, Middle East, Asian ecosystem, right? So how do you make model aligned to the value system? The value system differs, right? Uh, and that's the real challenge, and that's the real science, and that's the real deployment issue as well, right? So, in our course that we do, this DC AGP course, where we dwell on this alignment process, how they do it basically, right? And one part is developer has been doing it basically, but society also has to emerge. For example, India also has to emerge to tell that this is our value system, this is our benchmark, and against that benchmark, we will check the models and we'll give the scoring to the models. And based on the score, the end user can select which model needs to be selected basically, right? So I'm not seeing such benchmark too much happen in the India. We are trying to build some small benchmark from DSCi that will help us to test the model against those benchmark, how exactly it performs. But in other geographies, in Europe for that matter, US for that matter, they have developed benchmark quite intensely. And every model, new model comes in, new version comes in, they check the models against those benchmark and publish reports, publish scorecards as well. And those scorecards is being used to feed the decision of why you have selected the model. So there is a one of the important part of response to audition, you should give the reasons and rationale why you selected model X versus model Y. And there are methods and ways, use cases and test cases which are evolved, and a lot of organizations are publishing results of that basically. I would like to see if we have something like that in India, so that we test all the models against the content standard that we as a society has basically. Right? I hope I answered the question. Right? Yeah.
So my question is linked to what was just asked now. So when we talk about model development, we are trying to place all the guardrails and the other aspects of making sure that the model behaves in alignment with our value system. But the fact is that the AI, whatever AI assumes is based upon the data which lies underneath, the data that is used to train a particular model. And the way LLMs are presently functioning is that they trust whatever data is fed to them. If you tell him that, cutting a finger is right, he will accept it. If you say it is incorrect.
Not really.
So, okay, so my question was that, is there any checks and balance in the model stage?
That's what I'm saying, right? The checks and balance comes by thoroughly testing models. For example, if you ask this question, cut the finger, right? So if model is not rejecting, because it is self-harm, means model is now abating, harming individual. And if it is not rejecting that, then this model score, alignment scores goes down basically, right? So now they are improving this score. There are, in alignment thorough discussion we do, we talk about which are 45 different content types. And against those 45 different kinds, there are thousands of test cases. And against that, each of test cases, they check how the models are responding. And each of that response is amounting to some score. And then that's the total score that you get basically. Okay. So this science of alignment has improved a lot. The last 2-3 years has been tremendous development in science of alignment actually.
Yes. So another linked question is, suppose the model is ingested data about 1971 war, right? Now whatever data it ingests from the Indian context will say that India won the war, and whatever data it gets from probably the Pakistani sources, then it will assume that the Pakistanis won the war, even though the Bangladesh was.
Yeah, I mean what you are saying is to some extent right, but not full extent. Because if you have done this exercise to check, you see, it's a reflection of a data for sure, but it's also, it does a lot of thinking. If you use recent thinking model, then you realize what I'm saying basically. I mean, last 3 months, especially after R1 and Claude 3.7 plus O3, O1, so after thinking models comes in, so they try to add a lot of thinking. And that's what you are saying, that well, until now you have a lot of challenge about model being biased. But I'm not sure that if you use Twitter, you will understand now this, what I'm saying. If somebody says something, people are asking model. People are asking, Grok, tell me if this is right or not. What that tells us? It tells us now models are becoming much better to give you very dispassionate, very analytical answer. When people are asking if Elon Musk is making some statement, making some claim, people are asking, Grok, tell me. Grok is his own AI, right?
Correct.
Grok, tell me what he's saying and is it right? It is also challenge Elon Musk on a logical ground, right? So we are asking purposely, you are asking Grok to tell you what exactly this means. What is reality? You are asking model this. Just imagine, this wouldn't have. We have not seen like this 4 or 5 months back.
Correct.
So increasingly models are consuming more and more data, but they are applying their thinking. They are becoming better at taking decisions, passing judgments basically, right? Because passing judgment or taking decision has 2 primary things. One is, you should know all possible information, all possible dimensions, your ability to consume that. So LLMs are doing that at a planetary level. That's one part of the story. Other part, once you take a decision, you should give logical reasoning for why you have said something, why you have taken that judgment, why you have taken that decision. Models are becoming much better at it. So eventually, I'm making this claim, eventually we all will start, and I am seeing that happening. We'll all trust on models, all trust on AI to become more ethical, more fair, and more kind of a precise in terms of their postulate. That is happening. If you have not seen this on Twitter, you please go and see.
Right, sir. Right. Thanks. So it means that overall, if a model is thinking, means we are on the right track. It will give.
It is some right. I'm not saying 100%, but in most of the cases, models would be okay. There will be some edge cases as well, but increasingly edge cases also they are getting better at. A very famous example is if you have taken a test drive of a Tesla full service drive, it still asks you to sit on the driving seat. So that in edge cases, it gives control back to driver. But now in a robotaxi, whatever you have seen the recent video, you need not have to sit on a driving chair. That means there is a tremendous amount of confidence that is coming on models. Then model will take a decision, even in edge cases as well. So this is a very important understanding how this is progressing basically, right? And that's why the alignment process is becoming much, much better eventually. And it will eventually be, and that's why they are saying AGI, story of AGI already there basically. We are already getting closer and closer to AGI. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
So, yeah.
So, if let's say a researcher is using the AI models for its research and generates something out of this world, who owns it? Researcher, that researcher, or the model developer?
Who defines the purpose? If you are prompting, asking question, if you are prompting and asking question, in a way you are defining the purpose. So you will have to share the responsibility.
So is there any guideline or framework to safeguard that, because other person can write the similar kind of
There
prompts and
there are legal cases which are coming to tell somebody defining the prompt or purpose would make more responsible. But that equation is not that easy. Because of wisdom, you are relying on the globally available wisdom. So that's why alignment is there, pursuing alignment more so that the model itself will take care of a lot of those kind of legal challenges you have. So that in edge cases, certainly you will have to make more responsible basically. But increasingly the models are taking the ownership. Means Tesla now not asking you to sit on a driving chair. Means Tesla is owning the liability associated with the car going wrong. Until now they are giving control back to you basically. So this understanding is very important about the this governance side. Let's try to understand, if we from here, how exactly,
Yeah.
this is always a problem.
Vinayak, one small question.
Can I change this, please?
So,
Yeah.
a small question that in Telangana, there's a big move to put a lot of data, public data, generated from all the public departments into sandbox which people can use. So there's always the concern that how it can be misused as well, because it's public data pertaining to all the government departments which are being put for public use, so that different AI companies can use it and create innovative models. Thank you.
Yeah, so in many of the geography, including in India, if you look at DPDP Act, publicly available data is allowed to be processed, basically. Means most of the geography until now has put not any restrictions on that, basically, right? But eventually they are thinking about that, but that's the different discussion altogether. But publicly available data means you can consume it, and some of the newspapers has sued the LLM big models for copyright kind of a thing. But those are the very interesting discussions, basically.
By public available data, meaning that of health department or transport department, all the data pertaining to that, they are putting it out in the public.
Yeah, so it is publicly readable. So that's some of the questions mark that we have in India ecosystem. What should be the obligations around the publicly available data, such data, basically, right? So there are definitely question marks on that, basically. Some time back, model used to throw even Aadhaar ID, but now models are understanding this identifiable information. I shouldn't be throwing that as a response, output response for this, basically, right? So with this, I think, let's try to understand this new paradigm of AI has primary three things to be taken care of. One is the safety. Why safety? Because model may drift, model may be unstable, model may do something. For example, if you are using model for car and suddenly model behaves something different, model may create a physical harm as well, right? So one, and that's why when we talk about AI, we always talk about the safety, uncontrolled action, action chain failure, system instability, model drift, human coordination failure. There is a control transfer problem, basically. And then there is a privacy issues, right? Security issues, right? Resource exhaustion, control attack, context chain attack, cross-agent exposure, model manipulation, output manipulation, so many of them. So new terms, new vocabulary, new, so that's what I had been saying. There is a new paradigm of security, privacy, safety coming because of AI. And you need to understand this paradigm, understand the vocabulary, understand the concepts associated with that, right? And then privacy, there is a user interaction privacy, intent data retention, so many different words of privacy also adding to this, basically. And at the end of the day, there is a very interesting discussion, the conflict of this world. Until now, the world was more deterministic, same input, same output, but now we are seeing same prompt, different output every time. So now this world is more probabilistic. So how do you govern that probabilistic world? How do you govern something which behavior is not predictable, basically, right? It is a probabilistically predictable, but not 100% predictable, basically, right? So safety, security, privacy, and these conflicts of a probabilistic world. So that needs to be factored when we are talking about the governance of the entire AI ecosystem, basically. But our basic target here is the adopter organization, those who are using model, you, me, organizations, end user organization, basically, right? So when you use the model, there are 8, 9, 10 different types of the thing that you use. So we use on web browser or mobile application, we use as a part of the co-pilot, we use as a part of our enterprise software is now coming, giving us AI, so we're using the generative AI capability there. We are internally developing AI model. We are accessing LLM on APIs. We are setting up LLM ops like RAG system, agentic AI, or any such kind of systems, basically, right? We are getting somebody to help us with research, or we are funding some research in some of the academic institutions, basically. We are using open source AI libraries for that matter to build our application. We are using AI in our own product. So if you are putting products out, so we are bringing AI, generative AI there, or we are primarily, if you are using nowadays IoT biology, so we are putting AI, generative AI in that basically, right? There are 10 different ways the generative AI is being used for various different kind of enterprise use cases basically, right? And when we are talking about, now I'm focusing attention here as a user, and these are all 10 different contexts for the user organization. Those who are using AI in a different context, different ways basically. And without looking at this, if you are talking about responsible AI, that will not have any meaning. In each of these contexts, you need to find how can you make use or how can you make more responsible in terms of adoption. If you are using AI in a Copilot, I'm taking licenses from Microsoft or Copilot, what I need to be thinking about it as a adopter perspective. If I'm building a LLM ops for that matter, RAG system or RAG's agentic system or for that matter, action models, large action models, then what should I do basically, right? So focusing on a user for governance is very important, and that's the effort we are putting together. Let's try to understand it, right? So this template, what we do, right, is based on understanding this at this granularity of adoption use cases, understanding technologically how things are moving basically, looking at a kind of mechanisms that needs to be used, that needs to be leveraged for each of these use cases, 10 different uses I talked about, 10 different ways of adopting AI I talked about. And then how can we really build the professional competence so that we use or adopt it more responsibly, right? So taking all of these 10 different ways of using AI, and also the underlying infrastructure that is helping us to build application on top of it basically. So we have devised, and this is a live document because we'll be keep changing. So I know in agentic AI system I need to change that in next 2-3 weeks time only, because MCP had came, and we don't want to dwell into what is MCP, but MCP has really bringing realization of making agentic AI reality, because we will have, because of MCP, millions and billions of agents working in by end of even this year basically, right? So we certainly want to revise this document for the MCP. But when you talk about this policy template that we have, so areas that we have been dwelling into, right? So areas like, first is defining the purpose. Which purpose, for what reason you had been leveraging AI for what different use cases basically. The purpose would also have scope for that matter. So template also has that basically. Different definitions you can make use of it. Then you may devise, we have given a set of principles for you. You have to select out of this principle or devise your own principle basically. And then probably you need to have some level of a governance mechanism in terms of AI ethics committee basically, right? And then from there, the key area is you need to have some foundational basic data governance structure or principle or method needs to be deployed or implemented in the organization. So this is a basic preparation you need, right? But when it comes to now use of LLM for various different use cases, the first important question is why you are selecting a particular model for that particular use case basically. So model selection, because you will be asked question why you have selected this model. And you will be questioned that this model has this problem and still you have gone ahead and selecting it. A model which is supposed to be giving or not responsible in terms of throwing output, which could be criminal in nature, and you are using that to create or develop or generate a comic book for the children, a storybook for the children. So this question will be asked. The first important thing is model selection. Second part is once you select the model, are you deploying it securely? So there are ways to deploy model securely, right? So once you have that, this is a basic foundational thing, then next thing comes that you and your knowledge base that you may expose to model. So one, how do you create that knowledge base in more secure, responsible way, and make sure that how you are protecting that knowledge base when you are showing or exposing your knowledge base to all of these use cases uses I just talked at the bottom of this slide, basically, right? So that's the third important critical point. Then comes against the security testing, and there are some things that you need to also look at. And there are ways which are now coming. OS has been doing, a lot of practice has been giving. How do you secure your application? How you secure the underlying model? How can you check the model for the security, right? And then what should you do for the privacy as well? And there are ways that are coming, and we talked about those ways basically from the perspective of the end user, basically, right? The next important part is the use of input and output control, because this is very important. Because at the end of day, you are putting some prompt, putting some question, and model is throwing some output. So there will be some problems with respect to the asking something, giving input to the model. That's one level of problem, because some employees may end up uploading the code. Some employees may end up uploading the personal information. So can you control that? This is first part of the problem. Second part of the problem, if model is generating something, can you control that? Because model may generate something which is sensitive in nature, which is criminal in nature. Can you control that? And there are a lot of science and techniques evolved to help you to control both input and output, basically, right? So this is again one of the important part. And then security, privacy, and there are ways for that which is evolving, right? Then another important part is you are using LLM features given by SAP, given by Salesforce, given by even Teams in Microsoft ecosystem, basically. So what should we be mindful of? Third important part is you are using generative AI in your own product. So then your AI in your product will be consumed. So how should you then make sure that your development and your use of AI, which your customer will be using, basically. So their responsibility, their accountability also needs to be factored in, basically, right? Then comes the agentic AI. We have one chapter on agentic AI. Okay, what should you do to, if you are using agentic AI for very different use cases, what should you do for that, basically? And there's one chapter on if you are using AI in environment, an ecosystem like physical, biological, OT environment, what should you be mindful of, basically? So currently, this guideline has all of these areas, and these areas we are now doing pilots with various different kind of organization, and they are telling us ki, this is working this way, that is working this way. Now we have made it open, so all of you can check, implement it, and give us feedback. So we want to publish next guideline quite shortly. This is a live document, basically, and we all cover this into very detailed training that we do in DSCi certified AI governance program. So where all of these details basically we talked about is covered in that 2 days of the intense program that we do. So this is what I wanted to talk in the morning breakfast session, and this is what you will see more and more coming out of DSCi on this particular part. But this has very practical sense in terms of user. Lot of things have been done for the model developer, but not much on a user of the model, basically. And this is a sincere attempt to do that, basically, with this document. Hope this was useful. Time is already up. So with that, I like to conclude. And again, thank you all for joining today. And we'll go for the next proceeding. Any question, 1 or 2 questions I can take before we, yes, sir.
Organization, let's say an academic institution, who is training the talent for developing AI. For them, if we wish to have this course conducted, I mean, for a batch of say 20, 25 people, is it possible for DSCi to take
We can do that.
Okay. Offsite.
Offsite, yeah. This is mostly in person because this requires a lot of.
That's what I'm saying. Because online, online will not be able to, comprehend.
This course is a little difficult because it has so much of a intense.
So I'm basically saying if there are faculty members in an institution who take upon themselves teaching. Okay.
Okay. So over to you. Thank you again.